everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Roadmap Home. I am your host, Mikala Breen, and today I have a very special guest with me. Honestly, disclaimer, I feel like I said that about every guest, but I truly do mean it about every guest. Every guest is special. So, Jamie, if you want to take a little second and introduce yourself, kind of your background. You are a fellow realtor as well. So kind of give us a little background about
Yeah,
yourself.
well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, so kind of my story might be a little bit different than most. I'm originally from Pennsylvania and I lived just outside of Philadelphia most of my life. Went to college, had fun there, and shortly thereafter, I started having some personal struggles in life. I found myself drinking a lot, and it just became something that was quickly becoming a problem and really affecting my life in a negative way. I battled that for a while. I tried to figure it out on my own for years, and it just wasn't working. And so I kind of really gotten to the end of my rope. I knew that, I had this like God moment where I knew that the next decision I made was going to be one that either changed the trajectory of my life or ultimately led to it ending. Um, so I agreed to come out to Michigan. I have some family out here. There's a program in Muskegon called West Michigan Adult and Teen Challenge. It's a 1 year discipleship program, not just for people that struggle with drugs and alcohol, but
Can I
yep,
pause real quick?
yep,
So you tell your story. I've heard your story before, obviously, and I love your story so much. And the way that you tell it, it it sounds right now so nonchalant, but just so everybody knows, like this is a very big deal. Jamie's been through it and came out on the other end and is just doing amazing things, and he shares God's glory with everybody. And he said before we were recording, dang it, but he did say, why go through a journey and all of the things that it entails if you're not going to share it and hopefully help somebody that maybe is going through the same thing. Um, and so, yeah, go ahead and proceed. But I just wanted to kind of say that because it's not something little. Everybody's story is different, but this is definitely a big one. So
yeah. I appreciate you saying that. And to add to that, I would say is that um, it took me a while to get to a place where I felt comfortable talking about it, just because that's kind of what kept me in it for so long, is that I felt like I couldn't tell anybody and I needed to uphold this image, and I didn't want people to know I was struggling, especially with something like that. The world really, for the most part, looks down and frowns upon those types of issues. So I think
for
that's what
sure.
really kept me in it for a long time. It's just that I didn't reach out for help, and I tried to get through it on my own, and it just got worse and worse. Um, but yeah, so I went to that Adult and Teen Challenge in Muskegon, 1 year discipleship program. Like I said, not just drugs and alcohol, but people there from all walks of life, grief, depression, anxiety, you name it. People were there trying to work through that stuff. It was hard. It was really, really hard. You're basically cut off from the world the entire time. I mean, it's Jesus 24/7. Um, and that's what I needed. Um, I tried doing it without him, and it didn't work. I knew that if there was any way or anyone that was going to help me turn this thing around, it was him. And so, yeah, I mean, I tried to leave that program multiple times in the beginning. Fortunately, my family and people that had listened to me lie and manipulate for years and years and years finally just put their foot down and said, yeah, that's cool. You can leave if you want, but I mean, you're not coming here. Um, so that was like, in that moment was kind of another like, okay, like what am I going to do here? Um, so I stayed, and progressively things started to get better, but it was really hard. I was forced to really take a look at some stuff within myself because to be honest, drinking and drugs is not the problem. That was the solution, and I needed to get to what the problem really was. And so I wasn't going to be able to stop doing those things until I figured out, what was broken inside of me. So, uh,
That's interesting. I've never heard you say it that way. Like
yeah,
as far
so
as
um, yeah, it was a rough year for sure, but I had a lot of people in my life that were pulling for me and praying for me, and prayer works. And was fortunate enough to get through that one year, graduated that program, and I have an aunt and uncle that live out here, and I hadn't really talked to them much over the years, and they asked me if I wanted to stay with them for a little bit, and I was like, no way, I'm not staying out here. Like, I'm going back home. And then I just felt like God was really speaking to me that, you know, he had something better for me here in Michigan. And as scary as it was, I decided to do it. Um, yeah, and it was just a big adjustment period, especially you're in a program where you're no TVs, no newspapers, you're not talking to family and friends, and then you get thrown back out into the world. So it was an adjustment period to kind of basically learn how to live a healthy, normal life. Um, and slowly but steadily, things got better. I met my now wife probably 3, 4 months out of the program. Wouldn't necessarily recommend people run into relationships right out of something like that, but I felt like God had really uh, set that up. And so, what I loved about her was just her heart for God as well. And she uh, didn't look at me or judge me differently for what my past looked like. So fast forward, we got married. Let's see, engaged in February, married in June. She was pregnant in July with my first kid, so we were on the fast track, that's for sure. And my son, after my daughter was born, she got pregnant with my son, like a month. I think my daughter and him are like 15 months apart. And I was working as like a regional sales director for this fitness company, and it was great. I enjoyed the job, but then the whole COVID situation happened, and obviously all businesses were deeply impacted. But obviously, fitness centers, no one was going in there, and
right.
I'd always had an interest to dabble in real estate, and so I had some time on my hands. Didn't seem like it was that didn't have to invest a lot of money to do it. So I thought
Wait,
to get
are we
started, I mean, it was you
are
pay.
we business?
Well, I mean, to get
I did
started,
something wrong.
yeah, you pay to take the class. You pay to if you even want to go to a class, you can study on your own. Uh, I knew that sitting in a classroom setting that was more structured was going to be the best way for me to learn. So that's what I did. I took the course, passed it, and then yeah, I just started reaching out to different realtors in the area that I didn't know just to kind of pick their brain about their brokerages, what their experience was like, and just figure out what might be a good fit for me. For any of you thinking about going into real estate, let me tell you that when you get your license, they are not interviewing you, you are interviewing them. Every brokerage will hire you. I promise you that. So it's just a matter of finding a culture fit and just a place that you feel like you're really going to be able to grow and be the realtor that you really want to be. So I started with Bella Bay. Love it. I was working part time for my father-in-law uh, when I first got my license, and obviously real estate is all commission. So I didn't just jump into it full time. I knew that I needed to kind of be smart about it and just slowly work my way up. And so I started doing really well. I mean, Bella Bay is an amazing brokerage, tons of amazing people there. And they really just helped me kind of get into it. And I was really forced to learn pretty quickly because, as many of you know, the real estate market around COVID time was record low interest rates. So people were basically sacrificing their firstborn children to get homes. And so it was crazy. And so it really forced me to learn on the fly pretty quickly. And so looking back on that, I think it helped me become a much better agent. And so that was
Your
good.
like even like your negotiation skills, right? Like
Yeah, that
they
was
have
definitely, that was the big piece. I mean, and it was tough for a lot of buyers. You felt bad. First time home buyers, people that don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank, you just weren't getting a house if you didn't have that during that time. And
yeah.
so, um, you know, yeah, so things went well. I did really well in well, my first year I did pretty well considering I did part time most of it. And then once things started getting more consistent, I decided to just move into it full time. Uh, awesome. I'm so grateful for real estate. Obviously, the money is really good, but what I've enjoyed the most about it is just the ability to spend time with my family, my kids, whenever I want. I don't need to ask for vacation time, and I really kind of schedule my schedule kind of around my family and our life. So that's been the greatest blessing. Um, and then, yeah, to be honest, I actually left Bella Bay for a little bit.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
decided to, I think looking back on it, it was actually a really good learning experience for me. I probably got a little like too big in my head. I started doing well and I started thinking that maybe I could do better somewhere else. And I didn't. And
There
it
was
took
also
it.
a time though where like our team specifically was not super steady, I guess
Yeah.
I can say.
Yeah. I'd
And
say
so
that's
like for you, you have a family that you support. And I've said this then and I stand by it. Like I don't I if I was in your position, I probably would have made the same decision
yeah. I mean,
at the time, right?
yeah, and that was like I justified it. Like it's easy to justify something like, oh, it's for my family, but it also probably subconsciously is like I want to make more money.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't leave. I wasn't gone very long, 2, 3 months maybe, and I decided to come back to the brokerage, my tail between my legs. I called Mike and just said, hey, I made a mistake. Um, he's like, just sign the papers. It's like you never left. Just come on back. And that was just kind of summarizes up like what type of brokerage Bella Bay is, the people that are there. I guess what I learned in that is that the culture of your brokerage is so much more important than how many houses you're going to sell. I've
Mhm.
made amazing friends in Bella Bay, and just seeing the growth that that brokerage has had in comparison to some of these huge brokerages that are nationwide. Bella Bay is not that, but they do real estate like they are one of them. And so I have to attribute so much of my success to them. Um, just the training program, the people there that just kind of took me under their wing and helped me become a better agent. So, and here we are. So, what was it year 4 of real estate? Uh, things have just continued to go well, and so think about maybe get my broker's license at some point now that we're through the 3 years. So yeah, it's
Woo!
exciting. It's good. I love it. And like I said, the other big thing too is what it really allowed to is for my wife to stay at home and raise our kids. I didn't want my kids in daycare, and I didn't want other people raising my kids. So um, being able to provide for my family in such a way that allowed her to do that has been awesome. So I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. So, becoming, you said you're year 4 currently. I am as well. When you first became a realtor, what would you say? Obviously, we came into the game when it was, I mean, balls to the wall. Like it was insane. I literally remember Jake actually, when I was working as the ISA, he was like, are you sure, like, are you sure you want to be like come into the field at this point in time? I'm like, in my opinion, there's no better time because it's going to teach me things that realtors that have been in the business for so long aren't exposed to yet. And
Mhm.
so it's like I'm learning so much, such as negotiation skills, right?
Yep,
You really had to have prime negotiation skills when you were up against 50 plus offers. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So, what would you say was the biggest struggle or challenge for you when you entered real estate?
Um, I guess maybe in the very beginning, it was like I was excited. I wanted to sell houses. I wanted to make money. So it was like I was just a yes man all the time. And
Oh,
so any lead I could take, any house I could show, anything, like I was on top of it. Someone didn't want to, hey, who wants this lead? I'll take it. I'll take it. And so quickly I started to realize that I can't, it's not possible to actually work like that. And not only that, that when I am spreading myself that thin, the people that I am working with are not getting the best version of me as a realtor. And so I felt like I was starting to see myself kind of not be the realtor that I wanted to be, not because I wasn't a good realtor, but because I was learning how to kind of spend my time and how many clients I was going to work with. I would have worked with 100 clients at one time during that time, but um, I learned pretty quickly that that's not really an effective way to grow your real estate business. So, and even that sometimes is still a struggle. It's you get slow months, and it's like, all right, I got to show houses, and you just sure I'll do this, I'll do that, I do that. So, but
yeah.
that's something I'm still learning. I think.
That's the thing too, right? When you don't have experience running your own business and being your own boss, because as a realtor that is what you are. You hang your license with a brokerage, but you're an independent contractor.
Hmm.
So you're the person that you're doing check-ins with. You're the person that is managing your schedule. People are always like to say, oh, the luxury is that you make your own schedule. Yes, but you need to make it to where you're making money as well.
Hmm.
So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna spend every single weekend at the beach and I'm gonna go travel and da 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 da, and also think that you're gonna be a successful realtor. I don't think so.
No,
I
I
think you still have to show houses and still show up, right? That's the biggest thing. Showing up even on the days that you aren't making anything. I've said this before, in the days that are your slower months are arguably more important than the months that you're closing the most deals, because those
yeah,
slow months are going to lead to the months that you are closing the most deals, right? It's
no, I agree.
planting those seeds and all of those things. But when you first come into the business, I remember having a conversation actually once with Joel, and it was like, I know there's things that I should be doing, I just don't know what to do. And
Yeah,
it's like, where do you fill that time? What can I be doing at this point in time to make me money down the road? And it's just having that mindset going into it. And that's something I struggled with then. And like you said, it's something that I struggle with even to this day, 4 years later. It's like, okay, I do time blocking, I do all these things. I don't take leads anymore. So I am strictly personal business. So it's like, okay, what can I be doing now to generate income down the road?
yeah. I don't think
So,
you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I guess my thought process too is like the only way for me to make money in real estate is to sell houses. So I need to show as many houses as I can. But like, actually, it's there's a lot of other things that I can do that aren't directly bringing in money in that moment, but they're the things that lead to money down the road. So if you're spending all your time just showing houses, when are you finding time to market yourself, social media, or any other, all the other things that are so vital to getting your name out there and building a brand? So, yeah, that's something I'm still, I would say, is one of my biggest things that I've been trying to get better at is just being intentional about how I spend my time doing certain things and making sure that the things that yield the highest percent, like I'm spending my time doing things that are going to yield like making effective use of my time. So, um,
mhm,
and I think any realtor would agree with that, that it's a big, it's hard.
yeah. So, along with trying to figure out real estate as a business owner in its entirety, you have being a dad and being a husband on your plate as well. So, how do you kind of balance dad, husband, and realtor all in one?
I wouldn't say that I actually. am great at it. I think I
Okay,
do. I
honest.
try. I really do. I
Someone get a lease on here.
Yeah. I know that my family and my kids come before anything, and they're the most important thing. Obviously, um, real estate is how I provide for them, but I can always make more money. I cannot make more time. And so it is super important to me that I'm present with my kids. My wife has been super supportive, and she's been a rock star at home. And so it's given me the opportunity to do what I do. And I just I don't want to miss out on things in my kid's life. And again, that kind of goes back to that freedom in my schedule, um, and being able to do stuff like that as opposed to being in an office 9 to 5, got to ask for my vacation time off. Like I could live without making the real estate money, but I could never go back to a regular job just because there's no way I could give up the freedom that I have in my day to spend time with my there's not a price that I can put on that. Um, so I am certainly don't take notes from me on how to balance it all. I think that is a ongoing process. I mean,
Yeah.
I went from being homeless to married with 2 kids and a six-figure income,
Yeah.
like all within a year and a half. So I'm still learning.
What is happening? If that's not God, I don't know what
Yeah.
is.
So and it wasn't me. I promise you that it wasn't me. It's all him, and I'm incredibly grateful. So yeah, I think that's just something that I'm constantly learning, and my wife helps keep me in check with that stuff too, and I think that's important. So she keeps me in line.
Awesome. You got to have that balance, right? Like,
Absolutely.
hey, okay, it's
Yep.
family time now. I love that. Awesome. So, this leads us up to one of my most favorite questions to ask on the podcast, and that is, what is your craziest real estate story to date?
Uh, I'm dabbling. I'm trying to figure out which one to go here. We can go like funny, or we could go like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that that happened.
What one
Um,
are you like more like mentally stable to share right now?
yeah. So the one, if I share this one, this is actually happening right now as we
Oh my
speak.
god.
Um, I will condense it. I will try to condense it because it's quite a story. So I will try to condense it and tell it as quickly as possible. Um, so I got a lead. A woman had reached out. She wanted to see a home in Kalamazoo. She actually was calling to speak with the listing agent. And on the call, I tried to flip the script on her and say, well, why are you wanting to speak with the listing agent? And she explained why. And I just had shared with her, hey, if I may, uh, I would recommend that you don't go to the listing agent if you're looking to buy a home. They work for the seller. And so they are not going to be able to put your best interests uh, at the forefront while also doing it with the seller. She actually really appreciated that. And I ended up being able to schedule a showing with her. She also had a house that she was going to sell. So it was like win win. Went and showed her the house. She loved it, wrote a contingent offer on it, got her house ready, put that on the market like a week later, got a asking price, full price offer on her house. We ended up finding out that the house that she offered on had an HOA. It was not disclosed in the listing, or anywhere. And when she found that out, she was pretty upset, and I don't blame her. She was pretty adamant with me that HOA was not something she was really interested in, at least not a strict one, and that this HOA was pretty strict.
Okay.
So she decided to back out, which is fine. I mean, that happens. She found out new information, decided to make a different decision. I'm in support of that. And then also proceeded to then pull out of the deal of her selling her house. Um, but then this is where things start
She
getting
decided
tricky.
hold on, pause. she decided to pull out of selling her home
Correct.
under a contract
Yeah, so she
that there
didn't
was no.
have, obviously, like, no judge or court's going to force somebody probably to sell their house. So she was definitely in violation of avoiding the contract. Things were getting messy. There was probably going to be some legal ramifications that were going to take place. I won't get into all the details of that. Um, Buyers were extremely upset. Fortunately for her, they were actually really nice people, and things could have probably been much worse had they chosen to go that route. Um, so she pulls her offer on the house, pulls her house that she's selling. Things are about to get really messy. She calls me and said, if I found another house, we could make this mess go away, correct? And I said, yeah, if we got you another house under contract, we could make this better. So she sent me a house. I happened to actually be in the area that she wanted to see this house. So I just scheduled a showing, went right over there like half hour later. I even called the listing agent and basically told him what was going on. So they had a deadline on their offer
Mhm.
or on the listing, but where this house was located, they are allowed to accept an offer prior to that deadline if they choose to do that, which is not the case everywhere in Michigan, at least not
No.
in Grar. So I called the agent and just kind of shared with them the details of what was going on. And hey, basically said, name your price. Like, what is it going to take for my client to get this house? Excuse me. And he just told me, hey, these are some of the things that would make the offer really strong. This is what the seller's looking for. We see the house. Um, she's like in tears, crying at the showing. She's thrilled, wants to put an offer in. Mind you, she's still going to be a contingent offer. So we're trying to compete with people that aren't contingent.
Right.
Yep. So she
And not
decides to
only
put an offer
contingent,
in.
but like contingent on the sale
Yes.
and
So we were still going to have to, I mean, we were just going to go back to the original buyers that we were under contract with.
oh,
So
okay.
it would have been a lot quicker than having to get it back on the market and all of that.
Okay.
So I told her what I thought it was going to take to put in an offer strong enough to outbid non-contingent offers. She
Mhm.
was good with that. We wrote a really strong offer. We found out that evening that the seller went with another offer, but we had already got the buyers back in, right? So the people that she was pulling her
Oh my
listing
gosh.
from, I called them back, like begging them to get back in the deal. I like gave them my word. I thought that she had really flipped the script and was like, okay, she had told me that she was gonna see it through no matter what, at least the sale of her house. So I begged these buyers and their agent to come back into the deal so that we can write on this other house.
Okay.
Again, we didn't get the offer. Following morning, I get a call from the agent saying the buyer that they accepted the offer for was not truthful about funds that they had available to purchase the home, and that if my client wanted it, it was hers again.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Dream scenario, right? You'd think
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, what an amazing thing! How is this happening? Like, I'm getting my dream home. No, not my client. Um, I didn't speak for her. I said, I would imagine she still wants the house, but let me call her real quick. So I did that. And immediately I could sense in her voice that there was hesitation, very similar to that of which I heard when she tried to pull her house off the market the first time.
Mhm.
I kind of shared that with her. She said, I mentally accepted the fact that this house wasn't mine. And now you're asking me to get back into a mindset that the house is mine. And my response was, and what's the problem with that? I don't, isn't
I
that,
feel like I would very quickly be able to shift my mindset from a positive, like to a positive rather than like to a negative, right?
yes. So I was confused. I just thought, okay, well, what's the problem here? Like, this is the goal, right? Mind you, her kids were very much involved in decisions with her. They were highly influencing her decision. I'm sure, as Mikala, you can attest to this. A lot of times, family thinks that your best interests, they have your best interests in mind, and their heart is in the right place. But a lot of times, when family gets involved in real estate transactions, it usually doesn't end well. So she was very hesitant. She started asking questions that were just concerning, like, okay, she's not going to do this. She said, give me a half an hour. I'm going to talk to my kids. I'll call you back. So at this point, I'm preparing myself that this isn't going to happen. But mind you, she promised that she was going to still follow through with the sale of her house now that I got the buyers back in. So even though she wasn't going to buy this house now, she was still going to go through with the sale of her house. And we were going to continue to, what,
Like
I don't
look.
know if she wanted to keep looking at houses or just look for short term rental or somewhere to stay temporarily.
Okay.
So, okay, she calls me like an hour and a half later. The agent is blowing up my phone asking for an answer. I tried to hold him off as long as I could. She finally calls me back and proceeds to tell me that she doesn't want the house. Uh, Obviously, I was pretty frustrated, to be honest. I just really stuck my neck out to get the buyers for her house back in.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and so, I kindly explained to her that um, the ripple effect of the decisions that she was going back and forth on over the course of a few weeks were having a big impact on other people. And, I just was trying to explain, like, these are things that you don't really want to go back and forth on. Like, let's just make decisions and move forward. She did not like that. I did not speak with her again on the phone since then. It was very matter of fact. I just communicated with her through text message for whatever I needed to do in order to close on the sale of her house. So she's still, at this point, still selling her house to these people. We were originally supposed to close on the 8th, which there were repairs that needed to be get done for the appraisal. So she was working on those. Those got done. We Buyer asked to push the closing out from the 8th to the 12th. Now, this is kind of, I'll, so the buyer's agent or myself, like, I had scheduled with her. I've, like, through text messages, I asked her, hey, can we push the closing out till the 12th? Are you okay with that this time? She said yes. We sent out an addendum to extend the closing date. She did not sign it, and then proceeded to have her lawyer contact us after the original purchase agreement had expired on the 8th and said that she is no longer selling her house because we are not under contract anymore. Now, technically, she is correct. We were out of contract, but I don't know how any of us were actually going to force her to sign an addendum. And so my thought process behind that is, if a seller can just not sign an addendum and then
Mhm.
claim that we're out of contract, that would mean that literally anybody that is selling their house, if you don't close on the day or before that's on the purchase agreement, then the seller can just pull out. They just don't have to sign it, and then they can just say, "Oh, we're out of contract." So I feel like that muddies the waters a bit. Like, any seller can back out whenever they want. They just don't sign your addendum to push closing out. I'm sure,
Well,
Mikhail,
here's the thing.
how often do you actually close on the date that's on the purchase agreement?
Honestly, I don't think I ever
Exactly.
have.
So
But like that's obviously the target. That's when we want to, but things come up. Maybe you can close earlier, which is like awesome, great. maybe repairs have to get done, so we need to push it a little bit. Not a big deal ever. But the difference there is like, okay, maybe it muddies the waters for some sellers, but not to freak out buyers because it's not every seller. A lot of sellers are actually in the selling process because they want to sell a home and they want to move on to whatever their next chapter is. This case is just like, what even is going on? I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm still actually trying to wrap my mind around it. So this actually is still kind of going on because there's some things that are being looked into as far as some of the
Next
things that
steps.
she said and did that are on record that would assume that basically show that her intention was to close on the 12th, and after the original purchase agreement had already expired, was doing and saying things that were in agreement with closing on the 12th. So yeah, we're at that's where we're at right now. We're still seeking some counsel on this and legal advice on what the option is. Again, the buyers just want their earnest money deposit back and want to go on their way. So very fortunate for my seller that they decided
those
to do that.
those poor buyers, can you imagine just like putting
Twice.
yourself in their shoes in a market that is already so freaking hard to get a house, and then they get a house, they are under contract for what, a month, 30 days, probably a little bit more than that since you passed your
Mhm.
um original close date. Interest rates are fluctuating, everything, and then all of a sudden you're told, we're not selling anymore. That
Yeah,
poor, like, who even knows what their story is? Like, maybe they're a family, a young family, maybe they're not, maybe they're mid to 30. I don't know. It doesn't even honestly matter. It's just a matter of like, man, that sucks.
yeah,
Like,
it
that
does.
really sucks.
So yeah, that stuff happens. Well, I don't think it happens that often. Not like that. I would have never in a million years. You would have told me this happened. I would laugh at you and say, no, that didn't happen. So
Literally, when you told me that, I thought you were pranking me. I thought you were joking. When you first told me this story, I was like, you couldn't make this stuff up if you tried. Like,
mm-mm.
I was like, there's no freaking way that all of this is happening.
Yeah, I
It's just like,
can't. I still
it's
don't
definitely
understand.
a once in a lifetime transaction. At least I hope, right? Knock on
My
wood.
gosh, if I have to go through this again, I'm bouncing. I'm out of real estate. Sorry.
You're like, I'm a head out.
Yeah. Um, okay, if you don't mind, give me if you want to
Yeah.
end things on a more funny note. I have a quick story that is pretty hilarious.
Oh, good. Okay.
My first year of real estate, I had a client. It was my first time showing them a house. Middle-aged woman, went to the house, showed her the property. Showing went well. We were standing outside on the sidewalk, just having a conversation about real estate, kind of what the process was going to look like, and uh, she's like looking directly into my eyes while we're speaking, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, "What is that sound?" She is urinating all over the sidewalk. She looks deep into my eyes while it's happening, and so I'm like locked in on her, and I'm trying to pretend like I don't know what's going on. Yeah. Now, obviously, like, I'm poor woman. Like, I shouldn't. It's funny, but like obviously she was having an issue with holding it in. So, but as you can
Not the
imagine,
eye
as
contact though. Like,
yeah, like
why
as
the?
I'm standing there, obviously you can imagine how uncomfortable this is. And she's talking to me as if it's not happening. So, which made it even more uncomfortable because it's like
Yeah.
this. Do you see what you're doing? Like,
Are we both present here?
yeah,
I
like.
just.
So yeah, that was I was like one of my first showings I ever did, and I was like, all right, this is what real estate's going to be about.
You're
Sounds
like,
great.
buckle up.
So
This
you need stories
welcome.
like that every time to counteract a good laugh in real estate. There's good ones, bad ones, but I think that's what also makes real estate so great is that there's no predictability. You never know what your day is going to look like. Some days I want to quit. some days I'm so grateful. Not just obviously the money and all that stuff is great, but the people that you meet, the relationships that you're able to build, and then having the opportunity to help walk people through such a huge milestone and major decision that they're making in their life, and to be trusted to walk them through that is truly an honor. And so that's really what it's all about. So, but you do get some good stories along the way, and bad.
Absolutely. And it's honestly, it's all part of the journey, right? I
Yep.
mean, I have some pretty, as you know, really honestly only one transaction right now as it sets, that was a doozy and something that, and in the time, right? And in the process, you're like, dude, I don't know if this is for me. Like if these are the type of people I have to deal with, I mentally don't even know if I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there in the moment and you're like, and then years go by. Because this was when that transaction happened. That was, I don't know what, probably my first year in real estate, first or second.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on it now, it's like I can really take away areas of growth from like even things that I did in the transaction. And so it's like, okay, it sucked in the moment, but now I can use it as a learning opportunity to grow and also know that I talked about this in an episode with Gabe prior, but like knowing that everybody isn't going to be your cup of tea and not taking on just any and every client. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's certain personalities that maybe we just don't mesh with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like refer them out, maybe. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think something that I am still working on the daily is that I'm like a very passionate, emotional person. So one thing that I'm trying to learn is to not take things personally. Like there's
Okay.
clients and leads and people that you work with that are going to screw you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've had to learn to not take it personal. Like that's just how it goes sometimes. And so that was something that has been really hard for me because it's like, hey, I'm working so hard for this person, and then they do this, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not really about me. So I think that is something that I still continue to work on is just not taking things so personally and understanding that you know there's growth opportunity and all that stuff that happens. So
Absolutely. There can always be a positive in every situation.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a little bit harder to find,
That's
but
right.
it is there.
Well said.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day today and joining the podcast. And I look forward to hopefully having you on more episodes to come.
Sounds good. Well, thanks so much again for having me, and hope everyone has an awesome day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.